I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
And this is Fish Jelly.
C'est bon, c'est bon.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Okay. A little upset stomach, but, you know.
Living my best life.
Yeah. Probably shouldn't have had those, I shouldn't have put those waffles in the air fryer. Maybe I overdid it. To start. So RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 6, Episode 10. We finally get to witness the game within a game. Mm-hmm. Which, unbeknownst to us, after every episode, the eliminated queen lip-sync against the next eliminated queen. Mm-hmm. So, like, Serena Cha-Cha was the first to go. Next was Jiggly. So the first battle was against Serena and Jiggly. Mm-hmm. But what made this game special is Silky Nutmeg Ganache.
Dr. Reverend.
The Dr. Reverend Silky Nutmeg Ganache. There were 8 lip syncs. And she started in the third one. Mm-hmm. And then she proceeded to beat everyone. She beat Jiggly, Yara,
Jan, Pandora, Akira bowed out, but Silky still asked to do her lip sync even though there was no one to lip sync against. And that one I thought was her best. To Barbie Girl.
Because she performed to Barbie Girl and she had on one of those like, what is that movie where it's like a man and a woman with Glenn or
Glenda?
No. Victor, no. Anyway, she was doing half man, half woman.
Like the old carnivalesque hermaphrodite
singing Barbie Girl. And then the 6th lip sync was against Eureka. And we won't find out the winner until next week. But I was pretty impressed with that. I thought Silky got the redemption she deserved.
She did. I don't know that she deserves to come back based on if we're talking about each lip sync on its own, she fared the worst with all the wardrobe malfunctions.
Against Eureka. Sure. But I think knowing Drag Race, I think Silky would make the better story to come back.
Yeah, I agree.
Because she really did sort of claw her way back and her attitude is so much better. And we know Trinity doesn't really care for Silky, so that would make it better than if Eureka came back. But maybe both will come back.
They might both come back, yeah.
Yeah.
Which would be top 6 then again.
We also watched Drag Race Holland's 3rd episode, which was Snatch Game. The only person I recognized on the dais was Cardi B. Which was the worst.
She should not have done Cardi B.
That was... No. I'm sorry. Grace Jones and Cardi.
Oh, yeah, Grace Jones. Both terrible.
Which were both terrible, and both were in the bottom. So it was... no. What's the name of the queen? It was Love Miss Sissy.
Love Miss Sissy and Ivy Elise.
Yeah, I thought the lip sync... I thought Love Miss Sissy won.
Yeah, I didn't understand. They were so... But again, the production of the show assigned Love Miss Sissy a narrative of like not loving herself enough and being very unsure, even though, she's a grown-ass man. And, so they were putting that on her even before this episode. And then they just made such a big deal about her wearing a really well done prosthetic.
Yeah, so the runway was like a monster's ball. So they all had to sort of wear something like a creature. And Love Miss Sissy dressed up as the girl gremlin. And I thought it looked fantastic. And her performing in it was super entertaining.
Oh, yeah, that's like meme heaven there.
Well, and I always think like if I were at a gay bar with a drag show, like whose performance would really send me. And I thought Love Miss Sissy, like if some drag queen came out dressed up as the girl gremlin and did a pretty great lip sync.
Celine Dion, that was actually kind of emotive. And
yes.
I
thought it was excellent.
Yeah,
I was so surprised that she was sent home, but
yeah, you can tell. I think that they just
I don't know.
There's certain predestined things.
Yeah, for sure.
It's also kind of how they clobbered on the Countess for not being a good King Louis XIV, and I actually thought she was kind of funny.
I did as well. Moving on, I've been watching The Real World Las Vegas, which was season 12, which aired at the end of 2002. I had forgotten all about this show until a coworker sort of reminded me about it and how good it was, which is fun because in 2002, I was working in a casino in Las Vegas, and I do remember this show very well. And I got a chance to tour the suite at the Palms where the cast stayed. It's not just one suite, it's sort of multiple rooms, but the main part we got to look at. So I have very, very fond memories of that time in my life, which I think overshadowed my reminiscence of the of the show, and just how painful it is to watch. Even when I think about myself, because I am the same age as those people now, like they're all in their early 40s. So, I mean, to think about the shit I said and did when I was 22.
Well, it's never good to think about what you did and said when you were 22.
But you know, watching these people say just the most asinine things and be worried about the most ridiculous things and not really thinking about their future per se. Yeah, it's a pretty stark reminder of, you know, youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah, for sure.
Real.
I mean, I haven't been watching any of that with you, but I think I was making dinner the other night and somebody broke up with somebody long distance, and just the others were trying to comfort him, saying like, "You've had the worst day ever." To which is like, well, I mean, at least you were in a concentration camp. Is
well
how I react to people talking like that about their nonsense. But
well, yeah, of course you do. But I think I'll once I finish the season, I think I have like 4 episodes left. I'll probably talk about it more in depth because I have very strong feelings about each of the cast members.
oh, okay, I mean,
So maybe once I finish, I'll do a little recap,
okay,
which
sure.
you really won't be a part of. Moving on, do you know who Brett Butler is?
The lady from Grace Under Fire.
The lady from Grace Under Fire, which was a very popular
in the late 90s.
primetime sitcom that aired for 5 seasons in the late 90s on ABC.
There was some controversy about her.
There was controversy. Well, the show was canceled because she was very difficult to work with. On her own account, became addicted to painkillers that originally were prescribed because she had sciatica.
Oh.
And a doctor prescribed her Vicodin. So she's saying she was addicted to Vicodin, but who knows? She might have been a booze hound and addicted to other drugs. But she became very difficult to work with, and a couple of key cast members left earlier, like season 3, season 4, because she was just impossible to work with. But I was reading about her because she was back in sort of the tabloids or the blogs because a friend of hers has started a GoFundMe because she's broke. And of course, everyone's saying, like, how could you make $250,000 an episode? And, you know, to her account had made $25 million and now you're broke. But she says it's because of poor money management, poor financial decisions, and then her drug addiction. So ultimately, she ended up moving to somewhere in Georgia, like some rural area, and had a farm, but that was foreclosed on. Now she's back in LA, and she's like several months behind on her rent, which is $2,500 a month. So she has a GoFundMe asking for money.
She could live in a cheaper part of LA.
Well, you know, it's just interesting that she has had some work, like prior to the pandemic, which allowed her to kind of get back on her feet. But then with the pandemic, you know, obviously has fallen on hard times. But I just thought that was interesting because I do recall that show. And
Same, yeah. I think I remember watching that with my mother.
well, the show was based on her real life, so part of it was like her issue with alcoholism and an abusive marriage. You know, and I don't know this lady, her personal values and whatever, but just knowing that someone who was kind of beloved and then, you know, drug abuse is hard, especially when it, you know, a lot of people get roped into shit because of prescription drugs.
Yeah, the opioid crisis.
That were legitimately prescribed to them, and it just, you know, snowballs into something that's really difficult to manage. And then I was reading how she was saying that she's just so ashamed, almost to the point of like death, like implying maybe that she'd rather kill herself than ask for money. And I can imagine how embarrassing it is.
Oh, of course.
Because
Yeah, because
she's,
that's all everybody talks about.
well, and she's a known person, so it's not like, I'm sure there are very famous people who know her or know of her. So to think that like those people would know that she's hit rock bottom, it would be hard. But I think, it is really important to ask for help when you need it, because you can't suffer at the hands of wondering or worrying about what other people will think about you.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
that's what I thought when I was reading her story. We were going to talk about OnlyFans. Because
we're gonna have a new account.
yeah, no, because there's all the headlines about how OnlyFans said they're no longer going to allow sexually explicit content, but I think people jumped the gun because they said they will allow it based on their acceptable practices policy or whatever.
Yeah, the protocol that they will now outline for ensuring everyone is safe and consensual.
To which they haven't announced the specifics yet, but it would make sense to me that they would allow sexually explicit content, but only content that can be verified.
Which, it's not surprising. I mean, I'm a very casual purveyor of pornography, but, several months, I think sometime last year, I remember when Pornhub went through something where they had to remove a bunch of content because they couldn't verify that everybody that was in all these videos agreed to be in them.
It makes sense to me that a platform wants to make sure that, these sexually explicit videos or images are from people who are of age and consenting. And I think, yeah, that's it. I'm assuming that their new policy will involve ensuring that, to which I think is a great idea. Because I also don't really view pornography, but when I have and do, a lot of the shit on there seems like, I don't know, a lot of shit you watch, especially like, the section which I will often click on when I do look at stuff is like oh God, what is it? The category is like...
Drag queen.
No, like not hidden camera.
Oh.
And a lot of it is like people in the bathroom. And it's like, do these people know they're being taped or recorded? And
I think that's part of the, we're attracted to taboo things.
Sure, but it's still not right. Like, so I do think it's appropriate to change the rules so that, because also there needs to be some licensing agreement. Like, so if I make a video with someone and then they post it, and now who owns it in perpetuity, and like, how do I monitor the kind of money, like, if any, I'm getting? So I think it does need to be a little more regulated. But that's all.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are freaking out because, I mean, that is how some people make all their money now. But just let's let the dust settle and see how it goes. I don't think it's going to go the way of Tumblr.
Well, let's hope not, because I haven't looked up Tumblr, but I'm assuming that their site traffic has
plummeted.
But anyway,
it's just so funny I mean, it's like in so many ways the internet's age is finally catching up with how to properly kind of monitor itself and behave.
Well, also the reason this change is occurring is a lot of the financial backers of OnlyFans and the investors, many of them and the other banks and entities these investors are affiliated with don't want to be associated with this type of sexually explicit content. So I just wonder, like...
Well, to me, that's almost a different angle of it. Like, that's a way to... That's almost kind of leaning into censorship, is that we still don't embrace sexuality.
Well, yes, that's what I was going to say, because then reading about how, like, Visa and MasterCard had pulled from Pornhub because of similar issues with having content that may have not been verified or consented to, it's just like... Okay,
but give us a chance to clean it up.
Well, not only that, it's just such a weird stance to take. Like, we'll let you buy this little nasty material, but I don't know. It just seems like the line is blurry.
It's still blurry, but it's starting to become more clear in ways that are important, such as making sure everyone's consensual and of age. But at the same time, there still is that kind of puritanical attitude.
What I'm saying is that what's blurry is like, how are people okay making money? Like these entities are okay making money off of pornographic material, but then it's like, oh, but not certain type. Or to me, it's just like either. It just seems so weird. Like, okay, so Pornhub had some questionable content. They need to clean it up. Mm-hmm. It just seems so lame to be like, well, we're not going to associate with them anymore.
Well, right.
But you were already associated with pornography. Like, it's just so lame. And these other entities that will choose to invest in something. Now, I know OnlyFans didn't start out. Like, they didn't say, like, oh, this is going to be for
Sex
adult.
haven.
Yeah, it's not going to be for adult content. I know it was more for, like, people to sort of manage their own content and make money on their own. But it quickly turned into that. So I can appreciate that a lot of the financial backers initially could have been surprised. Like, yeah, I thought people were just going to post like cooking videos and, dog grooming videos. And now it's all, sex. That seems fair to say, like, I don't want to be associated with that.
I know, but it became just very naturally of its own a conduit for what is natural to human behavior.
Sure, but what I'm saying is that if I didn't know that's what it was when I gave you $3 million to invest, I think it's fair to say I'm not okay with that and
Sure.
I'm going to pull out.
Sure.
That seems fair, but I just think like to have it go this far and then to switch up and say we're not going to do this anymore. It's there. I mean, the platform can do whatever it wants to do. It just seems like a weird choice to approach it this way. Mm-hmm. I feel like the angle should have been, we want to make sure that the content that we are allowing on our platform is...
I think the bottom line is money and how much they have to pay all these top performers, because after that Bella Thorne incident, that had some modifications as well, and people weren't getting paid on time, or there were lots of delays, and I think that for this platform to keep backers on board, this is how this is. I think there will be more changes that come.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it might be about money, but anyway, I just thought it was funny that everyone, like, I'm seeing all these things on social media, like this mass exodus from OnlyFans. Like, okay.
You might as well wait and see what happens.
Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about is I feel like this is the danger in, like, people putting so much energy into something they have very little control over. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you're a YouTube star, or you're really popular on TikTok, and it's like that can be taken away at any minute. Yeah. Like it really is necessary to build a career that is transferable. Like, I think it's fun to do these kind of things, but this can't be your main thing, because it could go away at any minute.
Yeah, well, and it will eventually, because it'll be something else.
But God, I feel like I just got all these bug bites like in the last 10 minutes.
Oh,
I was outside. I wonder.
I don't know what you were doing.
Oh well.
The devil gonna get you.
Okay, you wanted to say something about Denis Villeneuve.
Denis Villeneuve. Well, he's the new director. Well, just because again we had talked about Scarlett Johansson suing Disney, and Denis Villeneuve has come out. He's expressed discontent over Dune is going to be able. You're going to be able to stream it at the same time that it opens theatrically, and of course there's already. Like even Chloe Zhao came out that she's terrified that people are going to see this on streaming and not on the big screen. And I agree. Like, this is an epic that I know. Well, I plan on seeing it in Venice, but I do think that you should see it on the big screen. But there are some people that can't and won't. But Villeneuve has come out saying that every contract he's signing now going forward, he wants a theatrical window first.
Well, times are changing. So, sure. I mean, you, as an artist, I feel like you should have an opinion of how you want your art consumed. But it's also a business, and...
That's true, but, eventually all of this stuff is going to be available on Blu-ray, streaming, or, in some form that's not a theatrical window. because unless you're a movie going age and alive at the time at the week that it's released, there might be a chance you'll never see that on the big screen. But it's kind of like Matthew Barney, who used to be married to Bjork, who did the Cremaster cycle. Who considers him more of an artist than a filmmaker, and only like half an hour of one part of the however many chapters of the Cremaster cycle is available on DVD or Blu-ray, because he wants it to be a traveling art installation. And it's like, well, not everybody can go to art installations.
I guess I don't understand why a film, like why it can't be released for a month in theaters and then put it on streaming. But I also understand that these streaming platforms have invested billions of dollars, right? And I mean, these parent companies have invested billions of dollars into these streaming platforms, and they need to have something, right? Yeah. So I'm not going to pay $9 a month for something and then not get access to cool shit. So it makes sense to me that...
Well, it might be hemorrhaging money for the theater owners if people aren't going to see it in the theater.
True. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's complicated and we're in a really weird time right now. But also, these studios are the ones making these streaming platforms. So I'm assuming they don't give a fuck about these theater owners.
Well,
they want it to all be self-contained. Like, they want to make these movies and they want to be like Netflix and have millions of subscribers paying hundreds of $millions a month for access to these movies, and then they can bypass theaters. That's what they want. Right?
Well, again, it's just... Yeah, and I don't think they don't care about how the artists want their art seen, because they really control how the artists make their art too. The medium has always been, especially studio backed, the business aspect of it always trumps usually what the artistic.
But they should have some control because it's their money. Like, if I'm giving you $100 million to make a movie... Sure,
but it's a slippery slope, though, because we get into, forms of censorship and who is allowed to be on screen as a star. Who are we grooming our culture for, who's appropriate to be a star and what things are appropriate to see? That's why we have such a fucked up view of violence versus sexuality in the films.
Sure, but I think that's why independent film is important, because when you don't have financial backers to that degree, you're more free to do whatever you want.
Right.
But when you're giving someone $100 million, $200 million, $300 million, it's like, well, we have to make this money back, so we have to consider the market, right? And then that's when all those things you mentioned come into play. Like, certain stars may not play well, certain subject matter, certain...
But it's so fucked up, though, because we have to consider the market that we've groomed to be, neutered.
Sure, but I think it's like, this is why a lot of artists fail, because they don't have a mind for business and they can't get past the fact that, like, you want people to consume your art, but it's also like, well, how are you going to do that? It takes a lot of money to get shit out there, and it's a big risk. And I think it is very much an artist mentality to feel like their art shouldn't be compromised. It's like, well, shit, girl, like, how are we going to market a 9-hour movie with no dialogue
I think
that's like shown upside down? It's just like, well, that's not going to work.
Sure.
And I think, again, that's why independent film and smaller budget movies are so important, because they have more freedom.
Usually. Yeah, it depends.
Usually.
Yeah,
so so for people who care, for the people who complain about everything in the theater being so, like, neutered and bland, well, then you need to go support independent film.
Right. But...
That's it. But for me, it's like, well, this man took hundreds of millions of dollars to make this movie. It's you have no... So to me, it's like, well, like... You signed on to be in a film, like, as an actor with this enormous budget that's going to spend twice as much on marketing, and then you're mad that they did whatever they could to try to make their money back. It's like, well, shit, bitch, then don't sign on to blockbuster films, because you know that the integrity of the whatever is not the most important part. The integrity of the story and the filmmaking is the least important part of the process.
Oh, he also directed that film you really like, Arrival. With Amy Adams.
Oh, yes. Oh, he did that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not saying I don't care for him as an actor or a director. I just think it's just like when you take like certain high level positions that are like contract work. Yes, the pay is high, but the risk is high, and like you might be terminated. Your contract may not be renewed. So it's like you're getting paid extra money because you kind of have to have a cushion because you're not going to be able to just transfer to a different position. I feel like you're giving up a lot of things the higher up you go, which makes sense to everyone, right? So that's kind of how I feel about this. Like, you don't get to take all this money and make this big project and then really think that you have an opinion of how the people who gave you the money want to sell it.
Sure, but he's already talking about how he wants to make it a trilogy because, of course, Frank Herbert wrote.
Well, you keep talking that shit, and they might not let books. You. Well, if it makes money, I'm sure they would have him. I'm sure. Do more. Okay, movies you watched but didn't review. The Brotherhood of Satan.
Which you watched with me.
I did?
Yeah, Arrow Video put it out.
Oh, about those elderly people?
Yeah, the elderly people that were catching people in the desert, and
that shit was ridiculous.
It was very dry. I appreciated it taking itself seriously, and there's some production value. 1971 film. Again, some things that Arrow puts out, I'm like, why did we put all these resources into this? But watching Strother Martin as a baddie, and an almost to me unrecognizable L.Q. Jones, who I guess I'm not used to looking at as a young man, were interesting to see. But other than that, I don't even really remember that much.
I don't either.
I was much more interested in the film that we started that we need to finish. That
the Siege,
the Canucksploitation film.
Yeah, well, let's save that because maybe we'll watch it and then talk about it on a podcast. Maybe. Okay. Next is 100 Minutes.
Yeah, I was trying to catch up. I had the opportunity to watch some things out of Locarno after the festival finished on their digital library. One was 100 Minutes. That's the title of it. I really wanted to watch it because it's by a Russian filmmaker named Gleb Panfilov, who has several decades worth of films that I think none of them are available to watch in this country. So I'm like, I might as well watch this because I'll have no other opportunity to, I'm sure. It's an adaptation of the famous novel One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. And the title is it's the length of the movie.
Oh.
I don't think it works. As I also haven't read that novella since high school, but from the impression that I remember of that text, I don't think it's quite reflected in this film adaptation that he tried to open up. Then I watched two other films out of their Cinema of the Present category that I had kind of ignored during the festival, including the winner in that category, Brotherhood, about a trio of Bosnian brothers who must take care of themselves while their dad's serving a 23-year-old or 23-month prison sentence for terroristic activities, which is fine. And a German film called No One's with the Calves, like baby cows, not your leg muscle, which won an acting award for Saskia Rosendahl, who some might remember from Kate Shortland's films Lair from 2012.
Okay.
And then I'm supposedly supposed to be covering the Fantastic Film Festival, but I just haven't I haven't watched any of their stuff, anything really over there except for that documentary I referenced that I really liked a couple weeks ago. But I watched something called The Unknown Man of Shandigor from 1967, a restoration print of a Jean-Louis Roy film. Jean-Louis Roy only directed a couple things. He was Swiss. But this was notable because it features Serge Gainsbourg, who also sings an original song called Bye Bye Mr. Spy. Very interesting, of the period, about a scientist who develops an apparatus called the Canceller, which apparently has the ability to sterilize atomic bombs, and everybody wants it. I really liked the look of it. It was shot in several places, but there's some sequences in Barcelona, and the buildings were designed by Antoni Gaudi, the famed architect. Yeah.
All right, moving to projects of interest, something called Scarlet.
Oh yeah, so Pietro Marcello, Italian filmmaker who did The Mouth of the Wolf, and recently Martin Eden, which we reviewed. Well, I reviewed. You didn't watch it. A Jack London adaptation. He's doing a French language film called Scarlet, and so I think this is the first film he'll do that will also focus on a female protagonist about a woman living between two world wars. That's all I know about it, but.
Something called Zillion.
Yeah, there's a Belgian filmmaker named Robin Prompt, whose first film, The Ardennes, like back in 2016, I really liked. He did it in English. I think it's a Canadian co-production called The Silencing with Nikolai Coster-Waldau, which again I think was a film I reviewed that you didn't watch on the channel, and that I didn't care for as much, but. The Ardennes I was really happy about. His newest project, Zillion, is a period piece. It's about the famous Antwerp nightclub of the same name. It's set in 1997.
Something called Cocaine Bear.
Yeah, I mean, this was announced before, but Elizabeth Banks is finally, she's shooting the next film she's directing called Cocaine Bear. I believe it's set in the 80s, and it's about a true life story about
a bear addicted to cocaine.
Yeah, about a bunch of cocaine that got dumped in a wood and a bear that consumes it.
Are you being serious?
I'm being serious. Yeah.
Oh no.
With Elizabeth Banks directing too, I can only. I'm sure it will be entertaining.
Lastly, something called To Be Real.
Yeah. So Billy Porter, who's directing a movie right now, I believe called What If. He's already been assigned to direct what's a project called To Be Real, which is described as a gay mashup between Superbad and Booksmart, and it's produced through Gabby Union's production label.
Well, we'll have to see how that goes.
We'll see. I don't know. Did she see his first film? Is it going to be good?
All right, for today, you thought we would do something different, and you surprised me with a film.
Well, so I think, are we going to do this as a recurring thing?
Sure.
So, like every other week, we'll take turns selecting a surprise film for the other one to watch?
Yeah, I think, that could be fun, unless there's a different topic we want to go on about. But this week, Nick picked a movie, and he started it. I had no idea what it was. We watched it this morning, and we haven't talked about it yet. But the film is called The Lair of the White Worm. It is directed by Ken Russell.
A favorite of mine, yes.
I'm going to read the plot synopsis. When an archaeologist uncovers a strange skull in a foreign land, the residents of a nearby town begin to disappear, leading to further inexplicable occurrences. Okay, so this movie was, I understand is now a camp classic, or a cult classic, sorry. But, yeah, it was pretty weird. Anyway, I didn't notice until we started watching this film that on a bookshelf in the house you have, I don't know if they're anthologies, let's say, or books about Ken Russell.
Yeah.
So, who's Ken Russell?
Oh my God, girl! You've seen 2 other Ken Russell movies at least.
What are they?
Well, so he's a very famous British director. One of his films is in my top 10 of all time, which you've watched, The Devils.
Okay.
With Oliver Reed and Vanessa Redgrave.
Okay.
You've also seen Tommy.
Okay.
With the Who, with Anne Margaret and Jack Nicholson and Tina Turner.
Yeah.
But yeah, just I love his specifically his 70s and 80s work. Often worked with Glenda Jackson, who won an Oscar for her performance in Women in Love. One of her Oscars. Yeah, I could watch Ken Russell.
I'm curious to know why you chose this one.
Well, actually, I'm working on something right now. I'm working on an outline involving cults, so I have a list of things I want to rewatch that had vibes that I remember liking.
Okay. I enjoyed this movie enough. I think had I seen it in a theater, like a midnight screening somewhere, fun, I think I would have, this would have been very entertaining. As it is, I still was entertained. It's hard to take seriously, but I think there's some really good parts in it. The main thing would be, who plays the lady?
Well, so it's based on a book by Bram Stoker. who wrote Dracula. So it's an old text, and I think that what I really enjoy about this film is it's walking a strange line of taking itself at one point very seriously, but also not.
Right. I could see this being remade.
Yeah.
And potentially being quite good as like a more serious thing.
Yeah.
But I think the best part of the film is
Amanda Donohoe. As Lady Sylvia.
And also a young Hugh Grant, who's very handsome. Mm-hmm. But, okay, the basic story is we're somewhere in London or Ireland.
We're in the UK.
We're in the UK.
But...
And there's an archaeologist... From Scotland, who's digging up in, like... These two sisters live in this house, and he's just, like, digging in their backyard because he's in school working on something. And he discovers the skull of what looks like a big, like, lizard-looking thing.
Yeah, they joke that it's a dinosaur. The sisters are also notably named Eve and Mary, which, of course, have connotations in Christianity.
So that happens, which is of interest, because there's also sort of this like lore in the town about this white worm, kind of like similar to the Loch Ness monster.
And there's also actual lore about another worm. Of the like in reality, but
okay. There's also like a big house nearby that is occupied by someone named Lady Sylvia.
But she's only there. She's never there in the winter.
Right. She only comes back in the spring. But she's back in town, and she finds out that this skull has been discovered, and she wants it because she is like a snake queen or some kind of priestess. Like she worships this big worm, which is considered like a god, and its name is like Dionin or Dionin,
a pagan snake god who has actually been trapped in this like rock crevice.
Right, it's been trapped. So she worships this snake god. She also is kind of like a snake. Like it's almost like vampiric.
Yeah,
She shoots venom, and if she bites someone, they sort of turn and become one of her like minions. But she is looking for a virgin to sacrifice to the snake. She's also slowly sort of like taking out people. The two girls whose home was dug up by the archaeologists, their parents, the mom and dad, went missing
several months
prior. So they're sort of reeling with that. And we find out that the priestess, Lady Sylvia, or Silva,
I think it's Sylvia.
So Lady Sylvia is responsible.
And then Hugh Grant plays Lord
James, I think.
Lord James. What's his last name though? He's the descendant from the legend of the snake, of the man that cut the snake in two.
Anyway, Lord James is also a neighbor, and he has money, and he's cool with one of the sisters, and
who's Catherine Oxenberg from Dynasty.
So the two sisters, Lord James, and the archaeologist Angus, who's played by the guy from Suicide Squad.
Well, he's in a lot of stuff. He's Doctor Who, Peter Capaldi.
Oh, okay. The four of them sort of like work together to try to like figure out what's up with the Lady Sylvia, and also trying to look for the missing parents. It all culminates with Lady Sylvia taking one of the sisters and attempting to sacrifice her when Angus is able to... They're able to destroy the Lady Sylvia and the snake. Basically the end, except that we find out that the archaeologist gets bit, and he thought he had an antidote, but he didn't. So the final scene of the film is the archaeologist with Hugh Grant's character, and we're assuming he's going to kill him. But anyway, I have a lot of notes. There were a lot of fun things about the movie, a lot of scenes that were... I mean, they're pretty campy.
Yeah. But Amanda Donohoe's vibe, that's how I like her getting charmed out of the house in that like gold lame suit, is very much a vibe.
We'll get to it.
A vibe I'd like to feel myself.
I think the name of the film already tells you it's going to be kind of silly.
Sure.
Right? And I didn't know this about this movie at all, but it opens with Angus, the archaeologist, discovering the skull, and the reaction of the two sisters is pretty laughable. So I knew what kind of movie this was instantly. The actor playing Mary, the one sister, I thought looked like Kate McKinnon.
That's Sam. Her name is Sammy Davis, and Russell would cast her in the lead of his next film, The Rainbow, an adaptation of a D.H. Lawrence novel, which is also very good.
After the discovery of the skull, we move on to a party at Lord James' house. And it's like a worm party. Like it's celebrating that worm or snake or whatever.
Yeah, every year.
I actually thought that was really fun because they have like a band playing...
like an Irish ditty.
Like an Irish punk song, which is kind of frenetic. And then you have like this sort of replica of the worm going through the party.
Yeah. That's as it gets cut in half, it narrates the story. And Eve, that's Oxenberg, she is accosted by the snake, which of course is how the film ends up with her hanging over the snake pit.
Oh, that's right. So as Angus and Mary are headed home, they see like a suspicious car, and then they tell like the local sheriff or cop, and he goes over to check it. And it's because Lady Sylvia's house should be empty because it's not spring yet. We find out that she's home, and that's what the suspicious car was, but the cop gets bit by a snake. And right away you see Lady Sylvia sucking the venom out of this like kind of gross cop's foot. So, I mean, the first like 15 minutes is like, oh, okay, I see where we're going here. But what's her name? Amanda Donahoe? Mm-hmm. Her body's banging.
It is banging.
She has a really cool look. Her costumes are pretty fucking cool. And then her snake teeth, I think, look really cool.
Yeah, they look good. She's got a little bit... She reminded me a little bit of Sharon Stone as Femme Fatale.
She's not as pretty in the face as Sharon Stone, but that body, and then, yeah, I mean, she's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah. I was reading Tilda Swinton was originally considered for that role.
That would have been interesting, too.
But I think Amanda Donahoe, who earlier, before this film, did a movie with Nicholas Roeg that I really like, called Castaway with Oliver Reed, and then of course she appeared in The Rainbow with Sammy Davis after this. But I think Amanda Donahoe is probably best known for that television series L.A. Law.
Oh, there's a sort of a device used throughout the film where some characters have visions, like dreams, but they're sort of shown in like a... How would you describe... I'm specifically talking about when Eve... She grabs the Jesus on the cross and has a vision
that Lady Sylvia spit venom on.
Right.
So it's like the cross and the venom. We learn that she's been reincarnated as this woman that used to worship the false god, aka Jesus. And so she has a vision of her village being rampaged by the snake, by Diane and his minions.
But how would you describe the look of it? Because it looks like old film.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like... It is sort of like a psychedelic looking thing. And then you see like these nuns sort of running around Jesus on the cross with like a snake attacking him. And then these soldiers are like raping these nuns. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's pretty batshit.
Yeah.
Which I thought we see that sort of imagery more than once in the film. And I thought that was actually really cool because it kind of takes you out of the... environment of the film, because I think the film looks beautiful, like the setting.
It was shot by Dick Bush. Yeah, it does look great.
Dick Bush.
He did a lot of stuff.
There's a scene where Lady Sylvia picks up this young boy named Kevin, who's not the most attractive. He actually reminded me of one of the boys. What's that British gay show I started that you were so upset that I watched without you?
It's a Sin.
It's a Sin. One of the boys who's, I think, Scottish. The one who dies of AIDS.
Oh, yes. The works in the necktie.
Who works in, like, the men's tailoring shop. Mm-hmm. This kid, Kevin, looks like him. But, yeah, Lady Sylvia seduces him and takes him home to have sex with him. And then gets him in the tub because he's dirty. And then she, like, bites his penis and drowns him.
They played Snakes and Ladders.
I thought that was good. Then going back to, like, those visions, Lord James has a vision where he's boarding a jet. And then we get, like, pretty much all the characters in the film doing weird things. I thought that was
pretty good.
that was very interesting.
Like his subconscious interpreting, because he's the opposite end of the legend, right? This from a lineage of snake conquerors
that like slayed the snake. Yeah.
Well, and then of course the plane looks very phallic. It's full
Yeah,
of phallic
it
imagery.
works. Getting back to how the film looks, I really like the setting, like these sort of like manors out in like the farmland, and the cave that the snake had occupied, but then there was like a rock fall that trapped this like snake god. I thought that cave looked really good.
I thought it did too.
Because they're actually like in a real cave.
Yeah,
shooting.
in location. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it looked really, really cool. Then the four, Lord James, Angus, and the two sisters are looking, thinking that they might find mom and dad, even though they've scoured the cave many times
because the
before.
father's watch had been found.
But they found the father's watch, and Lord James is starting to believe that like
there's something afoot.
Like there's something afoot. But anyway, Eve decides she doesn't want to look, so she kind of leaves the three to go on their own. And when she exits the cave, we see Lady Sylvia in a tree. I thought that was a really good scene.
Like the Cheshire Cat.
Yes, like the Cheshire Cat in a tree. And she's like, oh, will you help me? My cat, I saw a kitten crawl up here and I tried to help it, but now I can't seem to get myself down. And she asks Eve to hold her hand and she kind of floats down.
Yeah.
And then she, through the power of suggestion, like gets Eve to come back to her house to obviously sacrifice her.
Because Eve's a virgin.
Because Eve's a virgin. But I thought, like, again, that actor did a really good job, like, just playing this sort of, like, campy lady villain. Another really good scene is... I like that Lord James, Hugh Grant's character, he's, like, a rich guy, but he's not a douchebag.
Yeah.
Because he's, like...
Well, because he's kind of in love with Eve, right?
Yeah, the girl he's kind of in love with, Eve, she's technically his tenant. Mm-hmm. And he's not acting like some rich douchebag. I mean, because he lives in this mansion and has like a butler and housemaids, but he seems really cool. But anyway, he's devised a plan where he wants to like extract Lady Sylvia from her house by playing snake charming music.
Yeah.
So he has his butler named Peters set up like these big speakers. And then he's trying to find snake charming music. So he finds like this Turkish album and plays it. And it's funny because we see Lady Silva, like, it's like she, you know how like vampires sleep in a coffin?
Yeah, she
Well,
sleeps...
Lady Silva sleeps in one of those like baskets. That
those snake baskets?
Those snake baskets, like when you see those videos from like India,
yeah.
the King Cobra. And then she kind of, I think it's the poster art.
Yeah,
where she slithers out of it and then she like slithers out of the house. Yeah. I thought that was really fun.
Oh yeah, the body, the moves, it's captivating.
So that's when we see that the girl's mom and dad are still alive. They're just sort of under the spell of...
Well, they become vampires.
They become like, yeah.
Well, at least the mother.
And the mother comes back to Lord James' house while Angus and May go check out Lady Sylvia's house.
Well, she bites her daughter first.
She does bite her daughter, and Angus sucks out the venom, which seems like a lot.
There's a lot of venom.
There's a lot of venom, and he spits it into a cup, which looked very pornographic to me.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of it. Even in Hugh Grant's fantasy on the airplane, like he uses the marker, the
like
red rocket,
erect penis,
like the red rocket.
Yeah. But there's a scene where, because the mom is now, she's been lured to Lord James' house from by the music. So she tries to attack Lord James and he cuts her in half with a sword. Mm-hmm. But the way he does it, it's kind of done in slow motion, and then he falls into a drum set. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of little details in the film that are kind of like making fun of itself.
Yeah.
That I think are really cute.
Yeah, it's charming.
Because then Angus he's put on like a bagpipe outfit, and now he's seducing the other people who've been bit by Lady Sylvia to get them out of the house. Which is effective. And then when he finally sits down to take off the bagpipe, he sits down and the bagpipe kind of farts. Mm-hmm. So again, I really like that. Then there's a scene where Angus throws like a mongoose.
Yeah, because that's an enemy of the snake.
Because they're an enemy of the snake. So he has this mongoose and he throws it into like the lair where he thinks Lady Sylvia is. And she throws that mongoose back
right in the face.
Like, you really thought this mongoose was going to hurt this big-ass lady?
You hear it scream.
Yeah, you hear it scream, and then you see this bloody mongoose being thrown back at him. When Lady Sylvia is about, like, she's sort of describing to Eve, like, what she's going to do to her, she has this big dildo that looks like a spike.
Like a weapon, yeah.
Like a weapon. Like, it's big. Like, it's going to kill this
That's
lady.
what the sacrifice is. She's going to rape her with the dildo.
Right. So then she... so when the actual sacrifice happens, the ceremony is that Lady Sylvia is going to rape Eve with this, like... I mean, this dildo is, like, as big as my arm, and it's super sharp on one end, and it has carvings in it. But then the Dionin, the snake god, is, like, anxious to get out. So,
and Hugh Grant has gotten a team of people injecting poison gas into the lair.
Right, so it's sort of like pushing the god out faster. So Lady Sylvia's like, oh, well, no time for ceremony. We just got to get this over with. So she doesn't end up raping Eve. So she cuts her out, but the finale... Like the battle against like the main thing that's happening happens very quickly.
It does, yeah.
Because all of a sudden, like, they fall into the pit where the snake is, and Eve is holding on for dear life, but then Lady Sylvia is holding on to her arm. So then Angus is like slowly chopping off Lady Sylvia's arm. But it happens pretty fast, and she falls right into the snake's mouth. She gets eaten, and then Angus throws a grenade into the snake's mouth and blows it up. So I was a little... I feel like because that's the finale. It happens very fast.
The denouement.
Yeah, it just happens so fast. I kind of...
It does, but I thought it looked good.
It looks good, and I think maybe I was disappointed because I was enjoying what was happening.
You wanted more.
I guess I wanted more. They just make it happen so fast.
Well, I just, I miss tangible effects, too. And
I thought Dionin looked like a tremor or that thing that pops out of the xenomorph's mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it looked pretty cool.
The head was constructed from a Volkswagen Beetle hood.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Angus
had given himself the antidote. So we find out that he's made an antidote. So throughout this film, because Angus is missing for a little bit. Like, for like 30 minutes, we really don't hear from him. And then he comes back to help them figure out what's what and destroy the lady. But at the end, he says, "Oh yeah, I found the antidote. Like I sent it to the lab. They analyzed it, and now I have the antidote." And he already gave the antidote to himself and to
Hugh Grant
and to the girls. So the girls are at the hospital. Hugh Grant and Angus are in the car headed to go get some food before they go visit the girls. And then, but before that happens, the phone's ringing. And Angus goes to pick up the phone, and it's the nurse from the lab saying, "Hey, there's been a mix-up. I gave you the wrong serum. That's not the antidote. That's an injection for arthritis." So that means that they're all fucked, basically. Yeah. But, I think that the story's very interesting. I think the production value is very good. The film looks really cool. There are a lot of really fun touches that make it easy to like because it's not taking itself very seriously. Yeah.
The nurse at the end is played that was the debut of Gina McKee, who many might know. Like, she's in a ton of stuff, but like Notting Hill or Atonement or In the Loop, but she played kind of an evil mother figure herself in Mirror Mask.
I would give this I would give it 3.5 out of 5.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's fantastic. But Ken Russell in the 80s, I think you've still never seen Crimes of Passion, right?
I don't think so.
Oh, with Kathleen Turner and Anthony Perkins, where he's this street priest, and she is doing this Belle de Jour shit where she's like a clothing designer by day / prostitute by night named China Blue. And Anthony Perkins is trying to basically kill her with this metal vibrator.
Oh.
Yeah, Crimes of Passion is fantastic. But
yeah, if this were playing at like the New Beverly or, some fun, cute theater like later at night, I would watch it again. I think it was it'd be fun to watch in a theater with people.
Because I haven't seen this since I was a teenager, kind of first discovering Ken Russell, and I remember renting this with my parents. But another scene that I really liked was when Hugh Grant suddenly shows up at Lady Sylvia's doorstep.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Just right as she's killed that kid that she picked up, and they're kind of like playing off one another, and she's trying to be devious, and he notices the snakes and ladders on the floor, and she's like, "Oh, I have an insane fear of snakes." He's like, "Well, then why do you play snakes and ladders by yourself?"
I actually really liked Hugh Grant in this. He's very charming.
Oh, a side note on that, but when she takes the board game and tosses it in the fire, and as she's looking at it, she goes, "Rosebud."
Oh, Citizen Kane.
Yeah, I thought that was great. But Hugh Grant, this is 88, so this is right after he did Maurice. The Merchant Ivory production, which is a gay film that is based on the, I believe, posthumous novel by E.M. Forster. And we own Maurice. I highly recommend watching that as well. And notably, Ken Russell directed 2 movies this year. Besides Lair the White Worm, he also had another favorite of mine, Salome's Last Dance. So yeah. And this film had Oscar Wilde references as well.
Well, you have 4 minutes. Anything you want to talk about before you say goodbye? What are our plans for this coming week? Because you leave.
I don't leave till the 31st.
Which is next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have another weekend.
Oh, okay.
So you will be choosing the secret selection next week.
Oh, yeah. We got to figure out what that would be. I can't even imagine something that I've seen that you haven't, I guess.
Well, it doesn't matter, really.
Or it could be something that
we haven't seen in a while.
That neither of us has seen.
Well, because I thought this was a way...
I would prefer to watch something older.
Right, but I thought this was a way to satisfy also, like, people requesting us
People do request us talking about older classic films, but I feel like... I don't know, it's just hard to talk about something like Mommy Dearest because...
Which we did just get on Blu-ray.
Yeah, but I feel like we should review that, but not the movie. I think we should review the special, like, features.
Okay.
Bonus features. But, yeah, I'll have to think about that. But I don't even know what we're doing this week. I know I'm busy with
Candyman.
Oh, Candyman. I'm excited for Candyman.
Yeah, I get to see some pre-Tiff and Venice stuff, so that's great.
Okay.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, that's, I think, all we have. Unless you have anything else.
No. To share a quote, since I've been doing that, I had a quote from Mr. Ken Russell, which I thought would be appropriate considering the film. I'm interested in failures. The homosexual genius, the suicidal genius, the fantasist genius. All these people are heroes to me.
Oh, bless his heart. All right, toodaloo.
Bye.